This is the final part of my abnormal pain review. The previous parts are available in the description.
I've got no money.
We start this one off with Sally's dad receiving a phone call regarding Sally's fines. Apparently, he gets a call directly from the judge himself. Again, not how this shit works. Just do minimal research, for God's sake. This is ridiculous. When Dad's told about all this new information, he doesn't buy it at first. In fact, he figures out what happened here immediately.
No, the school system. That program isn't just proof. What if someone hacked into the school system and put that there?
Well, that sure is convenient. He continues defending his daughter for a while before he just randomly gives in and believes them at some point and hangs up. What did they say that made him switch so easily? Eventually, Sally arrives home, oblivious to what has just happened, and starts swooning over the day she spent with Stanley. He took her out to eat, they went to the park, they went to the city pool, they hiked up a mountain? My God, that sounds exhausting. Stanley's quite the adventurous guy. We are 13 episodes in and we finally learned something about this character, wow. Dad locks down and tells Sally like it is, about the phone call he's just received and how she's grounded for these alleged fines. He explains how the judge called him personally, which again seems unrealistic, but he goes on to back himself up saying it wasn't some phony baloney scam call, and he knows this because he and his family have apparently met the judge personally. Just randomly and conveniently at some point in their lives. Couple things. Someone could easily fake a voice. Also, how convenient is it that they met him and remember exactly what he sounds like? And why is he so easily accessible by phone call? These kinds of things being done over the phone are always a scam, and he shouldn't be falling for this. Dad's going to be paying off these fake fines, but it'll cost him $390, which seems like an awful lot. Sally has 52 lunch fines and 8 library fines, and if we estimate lunch to be, say, $3 a day, that would result in a $156 fine. I can't imagine late fees for library books to total up to $234. I guess it just adds on over time until she returns the book, but this still seems awfully expensive, especially considering the year just started. And wouldn't the staff have noticed that Sally never had fines before, yet they suddenly appeared overnight? This could easily be looked into and debunked within a day, yet no one bothers to double check anything. You can't create conflict when it is so easily solvable if our characters were just a bit smarter. It makes it infuriating to watch. Sally's dad claims to have only $400 in the bank and that this situation is going to cost him pretty much 3/4 of that. First of all, that's way more than 3/4, bud. Secondly, only $400? They are dirt broke! How on earth does he expect to raise his children in this shitty rundown apartment with that kind of budget? There's no way you can afford food, electricity, internet, the rent itself, and new furniture for your home at this rate. Even if the mom was cruel, it's more cruel to take your children away from a more stable house with food on the table. This is why divorces actually need to go through, and these situations need to be settled in court so both parties remain well off financially. You cannot just snatch your kids from a stable environment without taking any of those steps first. This man belongs in jail for negligence and kidnapping. He's an awful parent who never gets called out for any of this. This sorry excuse for a dad tells her that she will need to do $390 worth of chores unpaid to make up for this, which seems very extreme considering she only gets paid $5 a week. If we estimate that there are 52 weeks in a year, that's $260. Not even a whole ass year will be enough to make up for this. To add salt to the wound, Sally's dad tells her that until she makes it all up, she doesn't get to see any friends or use any of her electronics. That's insanity to punish her with that for over a year. Considering they have nothing in their apartment, punishing Sally with never being able to go out will genuinely drive her mad and destroy her mental well-being. She will be isolated with nothing to do, only spending time with her sister who isn't very fond of her and her dad who's a kidnapper and a negligent parent. Sally runs off to her room where she discovers that the bed is missing. Dad says he got rid of it so that they can replace it with a new one, but why on earth would you do that now when you don't have an immediate replacement? Where do you expect your children to sleep? Once again, Fern never has a say in any of this either. We never talk about how she has nowhere to sleep. It's all about Sally. Meanwhile, we see Mary and the strange Ruby from the previous episode once again meeting up. It's revealed here that the presumed teacher who is supposedly bringing alcohol into the teacher's lounge was none other than these two the entire time. Just like that, it's revealed. Give me some dramatic sound effects, man. It feels like it's presented so... Hell, it feels like it's not even presented. It's just told, like it's not even a big deal. We learn that this is apparently phase 3 of some kind of plan Mary has. Phase 1 being logging into the computer and giving Sally false fines, and phase 2 being calling the judge. But that doesn't make any sense. Bringing in alcohol can't be the third phase when she's been doing it since episode 6. Plus, this was during the same time she spread that lesbian rumor. There was no need for this plan as she already had another in motion. It would make more sense if this plan started after episode 9, when she was forced to tell the truth. That way you could introduce this plotline later when we didn't have 70 other things to focus on. But don't fear, my fellow bewildered viewers. Mary describes her plan to the audience in detail, clearing up any confusion we had.
I kind of wanted to see what my mom was so excited about whenever she got these drinks. So I decided to try some out for myself, and now I'm addicted. Well then, welcome to the club, sport. So I decided not to use these in my plan after all, and I could just sneak in every once in a while and drink some. Then I completely forgot about my plan to frame Sally, so now I'm bringing that back up again. I already framed her with the fake fines and all that. Now, for the alcohol to step in.
There's so many things wrong with this that I'm genuinely overwhelmed with where to start. For one, you've already framed her with the fake fines. This just seems unnecessary. 2, if it was a plan to frame her with the alcohol before, why did it take so long? Why didn't you sneak into the teacher's lounge and then immediately report it to someone accusing Sally of doing it? 3, what was with the cryptic shit, like the key with a code engraved in it? 4, why sneak into the teacher's lounge to drink alcohol? What purpose does that serve? Just drink it on your own time instead of putting yourself at risk of getting caught. 5, how does she manage to sneak in every time without getting caught? On top of all this isn't how alcoholics talk about alcohol. They don't talk about it like it's so cool. They usually don't admit they're addicted, and if they do, they don't say it with pride. They're not always sketchy individuals who make deals with high schoolers behind a strange wall and think alcohol is cool, but that's how these people were always portrayed in my videos, and it's very silly. Mary starts trauma dumping about everything Sally's done to her and why she's pulling off this plan in the first place, as if we don't know already. Ruby seems to know about how Sally bullied Mary originally, which has me wondering how long these two have known each other. How long has Ruby been in the picture? Who even is she? She defends Mary on everything that Sally and her friends have done to her, and honestly, this whole rivalry has me thinking about the victim complex that they continue to give her. By getting back at her with juvenile pranks time and time again, they've reaffirmed that she is the victim here, that they are the ones constantly hurting her, and she has to get back at them for her own protection. You don't like Mary, but you at least somewhat understand where she's coming from. With all that bullshit out of the way, the episode ends.
Mr. Electric, send him to the principal's office and have him expelled!
This one is only 6 minutes long. It starts off with Sally and Bridget marching into school, planning some kind of prank war on Mary. Oh, for fuck's sake! When has this helped anyone? All it's done is fed her victim complex and motivated her to go after you even more. Just report her to an adult! Obviously, the principal is on your side and she has given Mary consequences before. Also, the first thing Sally does when she walks in should be to report to staff about her false fines that have suddenly popped up to figure out what caused them. The lunch staff can confirm she's never bought lunch before, and the librarian can help confirm that she's never stolen any books. Why do the adults never seem to get involved here when they should? These kids just try to handle everything themselves. I guess when adults like Sally's parents don't listen, it's understandable she just tries to be independent, but the principal has actively been on their side since episode 5. They have a whole list of pranks they're gonna go down and pull on Mary, and they plan to start with the tightrope one? Do I wanna know? We get a random and seemingly pointless callback to the second episode where Stabra comes bolting down the halls just like old times. Stanley calls her out for running recklessly, saying,
Hey you, weren't you the one who knocked Sally into the locker the other day?
"The other day? Isn't that months ago by now?" My whole concept of time for this series was whack because Stabra follows it up with, "Oh, you mean the first day of school? That was the second day of school, excuse you. How hard is it to keep track of these simple details?" So that pointless scene just wraps up and we pan back to Sally and Bridget.
Looks like it's our boy toys.
Kill yourself, the sequel equal. They go to see their boyfriends who they have no chemistry with whatsoever, and Stanley shows sympathy for Sally's situation. The four of them exchange some cringy dialogue about how Mary's behind it all and she's going down. You know what would help with that? Telling a fucking adult? Stanley continues to support Sally, saying there's nothing else he can do but tell her nice words. Yeah, or tell a fucking adult! Suddenly, there's an announcement over the intercom telling Sally and Bridget to come to the office immediately. I'm not sure this is how it works. Back when I was in high school, they wouldn't have an announcement over the whole school putting these random kids on blast to have them come to the office. Regardless, they both report to the principal's office for an unpleasant surprise.
Wonderful to see you girls. You two are in enormous trouble.
I find that greeting really funny. Long story short, Mary's at it again, completing her plan by framing the two of them for sneaking alcohol into the teacher's lounge. I thought this was all about Sally. I don't really understand why she's always dragging Bridget into her schemes. If she's gonna bring Bridget in, why not bring in all of Sally's other friends? After being accused, Sally admits to being in the teacher's lounge but not to bringing alcohol in. Mary randomly brings up how Sally has a picture on her phone of alcohol in the teacher's lounge and tries to use it as evidence against her. First of all, that doesn't prove at all that she was the perpetrator. Second, how does Mary even know about this picture? She never knew about it before. She wasn't even involved in the whole alcohol plot point until literally last episode when we found out she was the one bringing it in the whole time. Was she in the lounge spying on Sally or something and she knew she took a picture of it? The principal just randomly decides that she has enough evidence to expel the two of them even though there's no real proof that they brought in the alcohol. Mary's only source is literally just, trust me, bro. Sally does, however, admit that they were in the teacher's lounge, which apparently results in automatic expulsion, which I find pretty harsh and convenient. Why isn't Mary questioned in all this? She's been known by the principal to be a troublemaker, and wouldn't she have had to go into the lounge to report the alcohol in the first place? That would land her in trouble too. The principal also doesn't look deeper into Sally's fines, as she brings them up at some point to blame Sally for her financial situation back at home. That is so twisted and irresponsible. You, of all people, should have noticed the fines magically appearing and been able to look deeper into the situation to debunk it and prove Sally's innocence. On top of all this, Mary was apparently recording Sally and Bridget when they were planning out all these pranks against her, using them as further proof to the principal that they cannot be trusted. At this point, that seems just like a useless detail to throw in, but sure. Everything's coming up Mary's way because she randomly pointed fingers at Sally and Bridget and they're out of her hair, just like that. Shouldn't the parents be involved here? Don't they have to come to the school and sign some shit and be notified of all this happening by the staff themselves? Won't Sally and Bridget need to clean out their lockers and take a few more steps before they just up and leave the school? Well, that doesn't matter now. Sally starts crying and runs out saying she wants to take her own life, and Bridget follows up with,
I never thought I'd say this because I'm a very strong person, but me too.
Thanks for telling us your character instead of showing it. And that's about it. That's how season 1 of Abnormal Pain comes to a close.
Kill your dad. Kill your dad. Kill your
Get the
dad.
coins. Get the coins. Tell your dad.
This is how we start off season 2 of Abnormal Pain. It feels like it should have started after the talent show, but regardless. This is the episode I was most looking forward to, not because I think it's good, but because it's the one I'm the most passionate about. The main premise of this episode is Sally being in trouble for something she didn't do and constantly trying to defend herself against her dad, who will not listen to her, just refuses to give her a say. And it drives her to the brink of insanity. I am very passionate about this because I myself have had a bad experience with someone important in my life just not listening to anything I had to say. My side of the story just didn't care and assumed what was happening was my fault somehow. So I eagerly awaited this episode to see how it handled a situation like this, to see how well it portrayed how distressing said situation is. It's not that good. The pacing is unfortunately too fast here. We've breezed past these last few episodes only moments after this plot point was introduced, and we are already faced with a big blow-up scene. This feels like the climax of this plot point, which is why it's even stranger that this is the start of a new season. We start this episode with Dad finding out about Sally's expulsion and obviously being angry about it. Unfortunately, his anger isn't justified because Sally didn't do anything wrong, and he's not giving her the chance to explain that. Less than a minute into the episode, after being lectured a bit, Sally explodes with, "Why don't you ever listen to what I have to say?" This comes way too early, and it makes it sound like the dad has never been present for her, even though she always praised him for being the only supportive person in her family. Hasn't he always been the one to listen to what she has to say? The only time he hasn't done so is recently with this whole fake fine situation, and while it's frustrating, it's being treated like he's never been there for her. There's not enough build-up to warrant an explosion like this. Dad continues being stubborn, not allowing any other explanation besides the one the principal and the judge have given him. Sally says this is all happening because of a girl named Mary and begins trauma dumping about all the horrible things she's done to her.
She's bullied me and pulled a bunch of stunts on me for the longest time now. She's publicly humiliated.
That was not a complete sentence at the end there. She also accuses Mary of having manipulated her, but that's not even true. I don't think I really knew what that word meant. Mary has manipulated the people around Sally, such as the principal, to be on her side with this recent situation. Dad gets upset with Sally that she didn't think to tell him about this girl before, which I actually have to agree with. Why hasn't Sally ever let her family know about this bully at school who's been spreading rumors, hurting her and her friends, and is now posing a real threat to her family and financial stability? It's almost like you guys should have told adults from the fucking beginning. I understand that her dad is not listening to her side of the story, and that could easily make someone close up and not want to talk about their problems, but he hasn't been doing that until just recently. It makes no sense that she never opened up about this to him, especially when she originally told him about when Mary first bumped into her. Dad says he wishes he never enrolled Sally into school because she apparently only cares about her friends and not her family. This feels very irrelevant to the situation at hand. I thought we were talking about sneaking alcohol into school and entering the teacher's lounge and getting expelled, not Sally having connections with other people, God forbid. Of course Sally doesn't want to focus on her family when her mom and sister have both been abusive and her dad kidnapped them and took them to a shitty apartment with no furniture and barely any money and is now refusing to listen to her side of the story. Plus, this is total bullshit. She has actively tried forming a bond with her sister and succeeded in doing so. Dad's just trying to find random things to blame her daughter for that aren't even her fault, going on irrelevant tangents. What a shitty, sorry excuse for a father. Sally compares him to Mom because they both don't listen to her or care about what she has to say. Hate to tell you this, Sal, but he's actually worse than your mom. She's not great either, but for your own safety, you should take Fern and run back to her place. Sally accuses her dad of expecting her to be a perfect little Mary Sue. Girl, no one outside of the OC community knows what that shit means. Guarantee you her dad's sitting there scratching his head having no idea what she's talking about. I feel like if you just altered the dialogue a bit, this scene could work wonders. If there had been more build-up to this explosion and Sally was more so angry about the sudden switch on Dad's part rather than acting like he's always been this way, this could have been something excellent. Her dad continues to bring up irrelevant points, saying she's always been a stubborn teenager, and that even though growing up is hard, it's no excuse for this behavior. Sally obviously counters, saying she's never used that as a reason nor excuse in this situation. She keeps insisting she's done nothing wrong, saying that his points are irrelevant, while Dad just brings up random bullshit to dodge listening to her side of the story. I don't know why he's so hell-bent on the idea that Sally stacked up fines and snuck alcohol into the teacher's lounge when he was originally so adamant on defending his daughter. She begs him to listen to her, and I quote, "the one thing Mom never did." See, this is how you write a scene like this. This is what I was talking about. She even refers to her mom by her first name in this scene, saying she's not my mom anymore, she's just Mackenzie. That actually goes hard. Despite all this, Dad stands his ground, giving Sally none to stand on, and she finally explodes with, "You will never listen!" Am I supposed to take this seriously given the delivery? Dad says he'll be homeschooling her again because school has caused nothing but drama for her. Great idea, isolate her even more. Considering she's grounded and now won't be attending public school anymore, she will literally never see her friends until at least a year later. This is abuse. You are isolating your child in a home that's barely standing on its own without even a bed to sleep in. Fuck this dad. Sally goes on to break down because, obviously, I'm not going to be as mean to this one because this meltdown actually feels much more earned than the previous ones, but I will say the crying sounds kind of goofy at times. It's a shame because some of the crying sounds real. It sounds genuine, like she's reached a new low that she couldn't have even imagined before. So I kind of appreciate that. Sally screams, "I'm done!" and then it cuts to the opening sequence 7 minutes into the episode. Wait a minute. I'm done! Oh my god, it's all connected! After the opening, we get a scene with Bridget. Wow, we actually get to see her be a character on her own. We get to see her suffering outside of Sally for once. Oh wait, but we need her boyfriend here too. The one she has no chemistry with, the one who has no character whatsoever. He got her text and came over to comfort her. Question is, did the parents just let him into the house? Is he allowed over when Bridget's just gotten expelled from school and is probably in deep trouble? Did he skip school? They share a kiss that Waldo very clearly talks through.
Bridget, I've never seen you.
That man is not kissing you back, girl. He's just yapping. This is one of the cringiest scenes in the whole series, by the way. You get to see these two be sappy and annoying and use that stupid-ass W nickname when you know they have no romantic chemistry whatsoever. It's not sweet, it's not wholesome, it's just dumb. It's random couple filler because we can't seem to have characters exist on their own outside of romance. Remember how Bridget's parents were neglectful and how it just kinda got shrugged off? Well, Bridget brings up how her mom just got done screaming at her for this whole incident, which I find very peculiar. Didn't your daughter tell you about the alcohol she found in the teacher's lounge? You should know better that she is not the one behind it. She is not the one to blame. This could have been prevented if you listened to your daughter and reported the alcohol to the school yourself, being an adult with more responsibility and power in the situation. Ending that scene off with Bridget and Waldo cuddling, we get an extremely out-of-nowhere tone killer with me announcing to the audience that the Dear LPS I previously used for Ruby's character would be replaced with another one. You couldn't have done this, say, at the beginning of the episode, when we weren't right in the middle of conflict? I also did it very unprofessionally, like in a comedic tone, which is a crazy contrast from what we were just watching. Mary and the new Ruby meet up yet again with the alcohol, even though their plan has gone through and Sally's been expelled. What more could Mary possibly want? Well, apparently they're taking alcohol to drink in the teacher's lounge for some unexplained reason. Just drink it on your own time. Mary goes on a really dumbass tangent about how she doesn't see any of the harmful effects of alcohol and defends her mom for getting addicted because she was never really rude to her when she was under the influence. First off, there was a scene in an early episode that implied physical abuse. Second, you were constantly in distress when your mom drank. That alone is harmful, to put your daughter in an environment where you're unpredictable and not sober. The truth is, you never know what someone might be like under the influence, and that's the real danger. But whatever, who cares? Mary's willingly getting addicted to alcohol under the guidance of Ruby, who claims alcohol has made her happier. Dude, addicts don't talk like this. They don't genuinely think it's a good thing for them. They are fully aware of the consequences and damage they could be causing themselves. They continue to drink because it's an addiction, not because they genuinely want to. They sneak into the lounge with the drinks, and the episode ends here. I feel the need to point out that it seems like Ruby is a grown adult, specifically probably over 21, considering the fact that she's able to get her hands on alcohol so easily. That means this grown adult is persuading a 15-year-old into becoming an alcoholic. Huh. This one opens with Fern entering the house, oblivious to all the chaos that's been happening. Her dad explains the situation, how Sally has a bunch of fines stacked up and how it cost him nearly all his money. Fern fears that they'll go homeless and suddenly starts crying because she realizes she's been such an ungrateful jerk despite Dad's sacrifices. Sacrifices like what exactly? Kidnapping his wife's children and taking them to an unstable environment with hardly any money to support them? Dad reassures her and tells her that she's just made mistakes and can grow from it. You mean mistakes like being an immature child because that's how she was raised, which you have willingly taken on the responsibility of fixing? I get that Fern should learn from her behavior, but there is never any accountability on the father's part for allowing her to turn out this way. He's had no part in fixing her attitude either. Stayra Jones singing at the talent show did. Speaking of which, it seems odd that Fern is suddenly getting an arc here where she realizes how awful she's been when it seems like the talent show already gave her development. She actively cheered for her sister even when her mother left the show. I guess now she's apologizing and maybe the possibility of going homeless really weighed on her emotionally and caused all this to boil over. It still doesn't make sense that she suddenly feels remorse because of that alone. She has nothing to do with their financial situation. Dad goes back into Sally's room to deal with her, which I don't understand. Just leave her alone for God's sake. Haven't you done enough? Similarly to episode 8, she is looking into her mirror, self-loathing and screaming at herself for all of her flaws. It drags on quite a bit and some of the dialogue feels kind of unrealistic. It just fails to immerse me in this breakdown. There's a whole lot of her saying how she feels about herself rather than showing it to the audience. She also calls herself a fat, ugly hot dog, which helps to ruin the moment. Sally's in the bathroom during all this and her fuck-faced father enters the bedroom attached to it. He demands she open the bathroom door or she'll be grounded for even longer. Christ, what are you even here for, to terrorize her further when she's already in an awful mood? He apparently came over to calm her down because he heard all her screaming. But if you heard all the terrible things she was saying to herself, why don't you comfort her instead of threatening to punish her further? Can't you see how much distress your daughter's in? This is something that really grinds my gears. Just because your child is in trouble or they've done something wrong doesn't mean they aren't allowed to be in mental distress. And it also doesn't mean they don't deserve comfort in those moments. You're comforting them because they're your child and they're very emotional and hurting, not because you're excusing their actions. The punishment can stay intact while you also calm them down from their stress. You can do both. You don't have to let them be upset because they deserve it because they're in trouble. And you don't have to punish them for being upset. I can't stand that mentality. How can this bitch-ass dad get any worse?
You're going to scare your sister or even influence her to become like you.
Oh, that's how. How is Sally screaming at herself for being a waste of space going to have a bad influence on Fern? And the way he delivers that line is so cold, it sounds so mean and almost dehumanizing. Or De-doganizing? He goes on to repeat the same exact bullshit from earlier, demanding her to accept her mistake and move on. I don't get why he's even bothering with this. You really think this is gonna calm her down? You're doing nothing but pushing her closer to the edge until she completely breaks, and then you have the audacity to get angry at her and threaten to punish her for having a mental breakdown? You have no sympathy for the emotional turmoil your daughter is clearly experiencing. No, she is not stable, but that's why you as a parent need to be responsible and be there for her. You can't just keep poking her with a stick and then get angry when she wants you to stop poking her with a stick. Obviously, Sally still defends herself because she didn't fucking do anything.
Honestly, you mutt? I don't know what to call you anymore.
Oh shit. Sally decides since her dad isn't going to listen to her, she may as well just do whatever she wants. She can't convince him she's innocent, so she may as well not be innocent. She may as well be the disobedient brat he's accusing her of being. She insists that she deserves to go to school again, that she deserves to be with her boyfriend and her two other friends, Bridget and Waldo. She literally says it like that. Why didn't I just say boyfriend and friends? Why'd I have to get specific like we haven't known these characters for 16 episodes now? After she reasonably lashes out, Dad decides the best solution would be to ground her for another year. She's literally never going to see her friends again. Is this man fucking insane? Sally then does something completely deserved. She hits her father, sending him flying across the room. I mean, I don't know, man. What the fuck did you expect? Sally storms back into the bathroom and commits this time. She stabs herself with the blade she was using to self-harm, but not long after, her dad follows her into the bathroom. Jesus Christ, just leave her alone! Especially after she hit you! She's clearly not safe to be around. Why would you continue to provoke someone who's mentally unstable?
You obviously don't care about your body at all.
What a genuinely demented response. You obviously don't care about your daughter at all. Sally ends up suddenly calming down and apologizing for some of her behavior, even though it's all warranted considering her father's treatment towards her. Yet she still stands her ground on the fact that she is innocent and has a side to the story that her father refuses to listen to, emphasizing how much it hurts to have no support from a man she once trusted. She tries to run away, but her stab wounds quickly halt her as she kneels over in pain. Question, how is she not bleeding out immediately? Why is it just now hurting and affecting her? Regardless, now her dad panics and runs out to get Fern, telling her to call an ambulance. Why the 6-year-old? You're an adult, you call the ambulance. Why is Fern always expected to be an adult? That plot gets left on a cliffhanger as we cut to a very tonally different scene. Mary and Ruby are in a drunken state in the teacher's lounge, complete with weird-ass editing and dialogue that does not accurately portray what someone's like under the influence. The slow talking and echo of the audio makes it sound really creepy and strange. They pass out there in the room and the episode abruptly ends. And with that, it's time to move on to the final episode of this unfinished series.
This is where Sally died.
Our final episode starts off with a bang as two doctors wheel Sally into the hospital on a bed with no wheels. This whole process is infuriating to watch. It's obvious they're in a rush to get her into her room, but her dad and sister are for some reason trying to stop them. I guess they want to follow her into the room so they can see Sally, but they never actually make this clear. They just sit there saying, "Wait, you don't understand. We're her family. What about it? She needs treatment, dumbasses." One of the doctors explains this to them while the other doctor just tells them to ignore it like an adult and wheel her into the hospital. Like, seriously, we don't have time for shenanigans. Wouldn't you know it, now suddenly Dad's all remorseful about his previous treatment towards Sally, as if he shouldn't have taken all her screaming and self-loathing and mental instability as a warning for what was to come. It's almost like he should have been a good father, comforting her and listening to her perspective rather than being a stubborn dickhead for no reason. He goes on to comfort Fern like a good father, if only we could have seen some of that with his other child. He then proceeds to contact Sally's friends so they can be aware of the situation, contacting Waldo first for some reason. He's arguably the least close to Sally compared to the other two. Somehow Fern has all their numbers conveniently, not sure how that happened. While they contact everyone, we cut back to the teacher's lounge where Ruby and Mary are passed out drunk. From outside, a staff member approaches the room, which apparently snaps Ruby awake as she hauls ass out of there with Mary in her paws. How the hell did Mary wake up that easily? And shouldn't they be hungover considering they got blackout drunk? How can she function perfectly fine? Also, the teacher was singing the Ed's World theme from outside the room. I just want to throw that detail in there. The teacher, upon seeing the alcohol, realizes it couldn't have been Sally nor Bridget behind this, seeing as they're both expelled now. We cut back to the hospital where all of Sally's friends meet up in a room where she's unconscious. Bridget and Stanley have these little speeches for her even though she can't hear them, I guess just because it's the thought that counts. This is where I get pissed off. For some reason, Bridget's speech is one big apology for apparently being an awful friend who always got Sally into trouble, who was never truly there for her. How did she come to this conclusion? She even says Sally's always been there to help her and she feels like she hasn't done the same when this couldn't be further from the truth. Bridget has always been Sally's rock, the therapist friend, the one who supported her through thick and thin and everything in between. She helped her with the talent show, she comforted her through every meltdown even when she was being unreasonable, she tried helping her get to the bottom of the alcohol case even when it got her into serious trouble. How does Bridget possibly blame herself for this? She also praises Sally for being a great friend, but was she? I can't think of a single time Sally has really been there for Bridget in hard times. It's always been the other way around because she's always been the victim. Bridget's problems have never mattered. She keeps apologizing, saying that despite the fact she was grounded, she could have made an effort to go to Sally's place and comfort her personally so that this didn't happen. Couldn't you apply that same logic the other way around? Doesn't that make Sally selfish for not going out of her way to come over and comfort you after being expelled? Neither of you owed each other anything, nor were either of you in a position where you could do anything to support one another. She blames herself for this entire incident while the man responsible for Sally's attempt is standing in the same room, saying nothing to take accountability, nor reassure this child that she is not at fault for her friend trying to kill herself. Matter of fact, why does no one reassure her? We have spent this entire series watching Bridget be there for Sally. It was basically her job. The fact that she feels guilty for Sally's suicide attempt because she didn't go above and beyond to help her proves that it felt like her responsibility, like Sally's safety and mental stability depended entirely on her. That's not a healthy relationship. I'm not gonna lie, I could have done something pretty great with that. It's an interesting way to portray an unhealthy codependent relationship, and it's wow. And it's genuinely heartbreaking because they really were best friends who cared about each other so much. Anyway, let's move on to what the generic love interest has to say. The fact that he starts it off with, "I don't know what to say except that I love you," really drives home how he's just a love interest and has nothing else to offer as a character, nor does he have any meaningful connection to Sally. He gives her a kiss and looks around to see that everyone else has someone to comfort them. Bridget and Waldo are together, and Fern and her shitty father have each other while his girlfriend is potentially dead in front of him. It actually really goes hard, except it doesn't quite work because it's not like he has no one. Waldo was his best bud, and Bridget's his friend too. He doesn't really have anything particularly special with Sally, so I don't know why it's treated like some big deal. I mean, I know why. It's because society puts romance on a pedestal like it's so superior to all other relationships and forms of love. With all that aside, Stanley just kind of awkwardly leaves as visitor hours come to an end. Everybody leaves the room and we're met with the very last shot of the series, which is Sally shedding a single tear. The bitch is alive! And, well, that was Abnormal Pain. Quite a hell of a cliffhanger it left us on, even though we found out Sally was alive. This series is a lot messier than I remember it being, which I guess is just a part of growing up. It's still one that I hold near and dear to my heart, and to this day is being remade into something brand new. Prime of Your Life is modern-day Abnormal Pain, and it focuses on 4 main characters: Sally, Bridget, Stanley, and Waldo. Mary was scrapped due to me struggling to fit her in with the main story. Prime of Your Life takes place in the late 90s to early 2000s and follows our characters through all of middle school, watching them learn and struggle with socializing, schoolwork, and becoming teenagers. Sally in particular struggles with making new friends and socializing due to her autism and has always relied on Bridget throughout her elementary years. Only now does the world feel so much bigger and more intimidating, especially as she starts to drift away from her best friend. While this series does focus on the story of Sally growing up and learning how to be her own person, it's also very slice of life, exploring day-to-day scenarios from middle school. I'd like to one day make a video talking about the future of Prime of Your Life, introducing its characters and also likely settling for a new name. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this review. I plan to review LPS Because of You next sometime in the future because it is absolutely batshit insane, so look forward to that. Thanks for watching, thanks for your patience, and I'll see you next time.